this day, 29 years ago, 5 children aged between 8 and 15 years left school, got on the bus and arrived home. When they went through the unlocked door, things were very strange. The parents weren't there and things looked dishevelled in a normally tidy house. That started the 29-year search for those kids' missing parents. This is the bizarre disappearance of John and Shelly Markley. John Markley Jr. was born on July the 8th, 1959, and Shelley Applequist was born on November 16th, 1963. They got married in November 1979. Teenage love. Shelley was only 16 years old, but that marriage flourished and they eventually had 5 children: Ruthie, Stacey, Bonnie, Crystal and little Johnny. John worked as a truck driver while Shelley was a stay-at-home mother. And with 5 kids, money was tight, but John worked hard and they were getting by. They resided in rural Bristolville in Ohio. Nothing strange or untoward ever happened there. It was a small, tight community. So when John and Shelley Markley disappeared, it was a terrible blow for that rural community. So what happened? Well, December 15th, 1995, all started just like a normal day for the Markley family. They had breakfast together and the children all left for school. Just a few days to go until the holidays. They were excited for Christmas and everything was fine. And that is until they arrived home. They were surprised to find that the doors were unlocked and their mother Shelley wasn't there as she normally was. On rare occasions when she wasn't, she always made sure she left behind a note saying where she was going and when she'd be back. So the kids, they were looking around the house. There was no note, as there normally would be if Shelley wasn't going to be in. But what they found in and around the house was very strange. For example, the coffee pot was still turned on. John's watch, which he always wore, had been left on the shelf above the stove. Shelley was quite a heavy smoker and her cigarettes were there. She would not go out without her cigs, normally. The purse was still there too, but their vehicle, a red and silver 1990 Chevrolet pickup truck, was gone. So had they left in a hurry in the pickup? The mystery deepened when the kids went upstairs. The gun cabinet, where John kept securely his weapons, was open. Don't know if any weapons were missing because the Markley children didn't know exactly how many guns their parents had. But the safe in John and Shelley's bedroom was also open, and important papers such as birth certificates, stuff that families keep secure, was scattered all around the room, as if somebody had opened the safe and frantically rifled through it, searching for something specific. So the kids were very concerned, but it didn't stop there. Inside the garage, the children discovered that 2 tarps that were covering their father's 1978 Corvette had also vanished. The Corvette was there, but the 2 tarps that he used to cover it over were gone. By this point, the Markley children were just really confused and upset. So they headed over to their aunt and uncle's place to report that the parents were missing. And unbeknownst to them, that morning of the 15th of December 1995 would be the very last time that they saw their parents. But this isn't the only tragedy that had befallen the Markley family in recent years. John had a twin sister called Bonnie, who'd been diagnosed with breast cancer 3 years earlier. And just 2 days before the Markleys disappeared, she'd sadly died. John had tried his very best to save his twin sister. He'd managed to raise $15,000 so that she could undergo experimental treatments in Mexico, but they failed and she died. There was a memorial service for Bonnie, and the family were just hoping that there would be an explanation as to why John and Shelley left their house in a rush, but that they would turn up for Bonnie's memorial service. It's a twin after all. But no, John and Shelley didn't turn up to Bonnie's memorial service. John's other sister, Linda, noted that John was angry that Bonnie was in a lot of pain and that God took her away from him, his twin. However, Linda said even though John was deeply saddened and he was angry, he wouldn't have left. He wouldn't have left his kids like that. So there was an investigation. The cops found no sign of forced entry or evidence of foul play in the Markley home. No blood, no signs of a fight, no signs of a struggle, no one broke in. So if John and Shelley left the house against their will, it was done quietly. Had they just run off due to the overwhelming stress that they were under? Was Bonnie's death the final straw? Because that's not the only tragedy that John and Shelley had faced. 2 years previous, in 1993, their home had burnt down. And then exactly 1 year later, John's dad had died. And then a few months after that, one of John's nephews committed suicide. So that's a lot. That's a lot in a 2 year period. So was Bonnie's death to cancer the final straw? But still, it seemed bizarre. The way that the house had been left was a bizarre scene, and the fact that they'd just gone off the radar completely. No, the family did not believe that John and Shelley would do that to their kids. Within days, cops located the truck, the pickup truck. It was found locked and abandoned in a hardware store parking lot, 10 miles away from Bristolville. The truck was covered in mud. Now, John would not have taken his truck through a bunch of mud. He was very meticulous about his truck. He kept it pristine. He washed it, he polished it. There's no way John would have drove off-road and left his truck in a state like that. Their phone was inside the vehicle. This is 1995, so cell phones were a thing, but they weren't common like they are today. They were big, bulky things in 1995, and John and Shelley had one in their vehicle just for emergencies. So it's not unusual that they wouldn't take their cell phone with them. The missing tarps from the Corvette, they were in the bed of the truck. So it's like the tarps had been used for a specific purpose and then just left there in the truck. So now, by this time, the cops feared that John and Shelley had been either murdered or abducted and were being held somewhere. So police continued to search the area. They conducted an air search. They had divers that searched all the lakes and the waterways. But that ground search, that air search, that water search, all led to nothing. The detectives, during this investigation, they found out that money had been taken out of the Markleys' bank account on the day they went missing. A $1,000 cheque. That cheque had been cashed by Shelly Markley at 10:36 a.m. at the Bank One in Bloomfield, Ohio, approximately 5 miles away from their home. The bank teller who'd spoken with Shelley was interviewed, and she said that yes, it was a woman that cashed the cheque and the truck was parked outside, and she remembered seeing 2 men in the truck. One would have been John, the other is an unknown male. Who's that male? And to this day, this stranger, who almost certainly has the key to their disappearance, has never been identified. But the investigation continued. One of John's former employees, a man named Stephen Durst, contacted the family. He claimed to be holding John and Shelley captive, and he demanded a ransom. How much that ransom was is unclear. Some sources say 10 grand, some say 100 grand for their safe return. So the family reported Durst to the police, who went out to find him. They staked him out at a gas station And he showed up expecting a bag of money from the family. You know, this was all a setup. Instead, he was given a bag full of rags and then arrested. So during his questioning, he was given a polygraph, which he failed. Now, I don't hold much stock in polygraphs, but it's just interesting that he did fail it. It has to be noted. But cops couldn't find anything to suggest that he was involved in the Markleys' disappearance. They did charge him, though, for extortion. They just thought he was a malicious opportunist. So that's what he got done for, extortion. The months turned into years, and their only suspect was Stephen Durst, even though they couldn't actually pin anything on him for John and Shelley's presumed murder. Chief Investigator Jane Timko said, "I truly believe that Stephen Durst knows what happened to them, and he just won't say." Durst was out of work when the Markleys disappeared, and he told a lot of people that the Markleys owed him $1,000. So it is interesting that $1,000 was taken out by Shelly Markley that very day. So was that $1,000 given to Stephen Durst, who was the strange man who's never been identified in the pickup truck? But they could not pin Stephen Durst to that scene, to the Markleys' home, or even to the pickup truck. Turnbull County Sheriff Tom Altier stated, "My gut instinct is that they died. I don't have any solid evidence that way. I just tend to think that if they were still alive, we would be able to track down credit card receipts or something." So, you know, the heartbroken family presumed that John and Shelley had been murdered. It's just so sad. The couple's youngest child, 8-year-old Johnny, that Christmas, wrote down on his Christmas wish list, "All I want for Christmas is mom and dad." And I think that sentiment could be echoed by all the children in the Markley family. They left 5 children behind. Whoever murdered John and Shelly Markley orphaned 5 children. Now, over the years, there have been certain leads, but those leads led to dead end after dead end. To this day, there's been no further developments, and for now at least, what happened to John and Shelly Markley on the 15th of December 1995 remains unsolved. John and Shelley have missed their children growing up, starting their adult lives. They've missed so much, and there's no answers. No answers for the Markley family. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think it was Stephen Durst? Do you think it's just someone else that the cops just haven't found yet? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next episode of Cold Case Christmas. Bye, guys.